I used the word one time as bucolic, and that's exact what it was. It was like a large Midwestern city, common, very laid back, wasn't very fancy at all, and it was a place where you could get started.
A place where maybe it was going to develop because of the climate and the kind of younger generation of people that were here.
Growth in the Southwest for sure, growth in the West for sure. In relation to the rest of the country, I would have to say I'm a little surprised at the speed of the growth, not the extent of it.
It was a city that needed to have help, if I could put it that way. It was growing so fast that it was out of control in a sense. Things were expanding so fast that people didn't know what to do.
It was critically important to line up to understand what was going on in Arizona and the political leadership.
Walter was the banker with the money, Pulliam had the ink, and Frank Snell was the law.
Bimson, Pulliam, Snell were really the people who ran Phoenix.
The old story was that those three guys could meet in a telephone booth and set policy.
But there really wasn't a group like a Phoenix 40 until Frank Snell and Tom Chauncey, Gene Pulliam created that thing, and I don't know if they modeled it after some other city, but they could have.
Not only a community-focused entity, it was also a lot of people who became friends and had common interests around the development of the city.
We just wanted to have a private sector leadership group that would do the things that the public sector wasn't able to do. And that's exactly what we did.
They just wanted the town to grow and to watch it. But it was growing so fast around them that they had to find other people that they could trust. And they emerged. They became the Phoenix 40. Our motivation was to clean up the city's image.
The organized crime was the thing that everybody knew was coming, but we wanted to avoid it. So we brought in the strongest private sector leaders we could.
We were having a bad image notably because of land fraud.
Don Bowles is a 47-year-old investigative reporter for the Arizona Republic. He's been working on a series about the mafia. Today, as he attempted to start his car, a bomb went off.
Bowles is not the first person close to the story of corruption and fraud in Arizona to have died. In 5 years or so, a dozen murders, or at least mysterious deaths, have occurred. But Bowles is the first bystander to have been murdered.
We wanted to get a bill passed to clear up the problem that we had with land fraud. We were called out later, and the bill was presented and it was passed. Land fraud man. Warren, it was called before him and prosecuted. Statewide jury came in, he was convicted, sentenced to prison, and died in prison. And the land fraud cleared up. There were other people doing it, but they stopped the thing, and it was tough law.
It was a very common good approach to town.
We needed to change. We needed to have a different approach to our economic development activities.
And everybody wanted the same thing.
Right.
We wanted a law and order town.
Right.
We wanted to put in place the infrastructure for growth.
Right.
And we did.
But a significant change took place, in which I believe has driven a great deal of growth in the valley, was the development of our road system.
Everybody knew in the leadership community that we had to build freeways. I mean, we only had one freeway, and it wasn't I-10. We had one freeway, and it was I-17. And it was not sufficient to meet the kinds of growth that we were seeing.
So it was a very important effort by GPL, and I think has paid off handsomely for the people of the state of Arizona.
Well, I mean, it has everything to do with commerce, and it has everything, I mean, gosh darn it, if you live in the West Valley and your job is in downtown Phoenix, well, come on, you're not going to drive down Buckeye Road every day to get there. It's not going to work.
I enjoy the leadership. I enjoy the strategy thinking. But also, I mean, if I ever needed to connect with anybody in town, I could do it.
Education was a commitment, probably the biggest goal. I don't know that we've ever, as a city, state, been nearly as successful in making the changes to education. It's very hard.
I think GPL always had and always will have an education focus.
I worked a fair amount on full-day kindergarten. You couldn't be labeled business-friendly if you weren't education-friendly. There's more emphasis now on other things, but education is still very high on the list, I'd say.
People that I think were always thinking about the big picture and others and how this place could grow and be still a great place to live.
In any city, you've got to have, well, I think maybe you could call it a business group more than anything that represents that sector of the people and the economy that has a voice on a consistent basis.
In some cases, we did use the GPL power behind us. And then in a few cases, it was obviously decided that, hey, we wanted to set that aside so GPL wouldn't be tarred with whatever, craziness we might have come up with.
The missions are very different, but the leadership focus is the same. Impacting this community, making this #1 in the country for lifestyle, for education, for business.
We are diversifying what we are. Like I said earlier, the sports teams are great. Those were kind of a catalyst for a long time. But we're having other things. The ASU downtown thing, unbelievable. What Michael Crow and that group has done to reshape a real downtown.
What the state needed to do, like freeways, or like the development of NAU, U of A, and ASU, somebody from Phoenix 40 interfaced with all the universities.
ASU didn't feel like it was being heard, and we gave it a much larger voice. All the things that are going on in the university and how important the university was to the town and the town to the university.
I felt that we had to open up the membership. We needed diversity, and it was lacking in diversity. That was one of the things that was pretty self-evident to me.
Membership criteria was not representative of the rest of the community and what the future would be like.
It was that Phoenix 40 label that was still in my head when I was thinking what an elitist organization this was. And he started changing that and changing the image of the organization.
So if you want to make this state, if you want to position it better for growth going forward, if you want to address the real issues that are critical, you have to have a broader viewpoint. You broaden the base of people, but secondly, you got more perspectives. There was less groupthink involved.
When I sat at the meeting last week, the membership meeting, looked around the room, it is different than it was 5 years ago.
The network where these companies could come together in a informal and sometimes formal environment to be able to address community issues and involve a broad-based portion of the leadership community.
We want to do more, we want to be more, we want to be on the map in the front, not just we support that. GPL leads this.
And that's where GPL can play such an important role going forward and be the kind of the forum for the creation not of just ideas, but thoughtful, well-constructed ideas that then can be the foundation for issues of long-term significance for the state.
You know, our goal is bipartisan. We're not doing it by party. You're not picking one party over the other. What we look for is supporting business-friendly propositions, business-friendly initiatives, referendums.
When I look at some of the most important things that I worked on. It was the first time that GPL had ever had a strategic plan.
What GPL does a good job at is identifying the characteristics, the voting patterns, the traits of politicians that support business.
I think it was a real pivot point for the organization for us to really think about what do we want to do, and let's be strategic about it. Look, we're all business leaders that have our own strategic plans inside our organizations. How do we want to run this organization and have our greatest impact?
We traveled with different governors on prospecting trips.
You felt more like you were part of GPL via the committee sort of structure, and that has made stronger than GPL probably ever was since 1992 or 3.
There were bills that would be coming up that we would have discussions about, pro and con. You know, should we be supportive of this or should we not be supportive of this, and why? Which were good discussions.
Well, you get to strongly influence the agenda. I mean, I think that's the most important part. And then you use your powers and interpersonal skills to make sure whatever committees and task forces are being set up.
We still have spirited discussions, and I think that's what makes GPL great, is because it's a group of women and men from different industries, different leadership points in their careers, who are coming together to try to move this community forward in a really positive way.
For me to be here 6 years and already have been the chair of GPL, I think is a great testament to that. People don't care about your history, they care about who you are now.
People that move to Arizona are welcomed. If you have the ambition, you're willing to do what it takes to make the investment, you can really, there is no ceiling on what you can become.
So I think this is a great middle ground between being a big enough city to have enough resources to provide, cultural and all that kind of stuff and well-being for people, but not so big that it gets out of control.
I'm very optimistic about where we can go, but I'm highly aware of the amount of work that needs to be done.
It's been a powerful voice on a whole bunch of issues. It remains a powerful voice.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely the amount of growth. I think when we came, there was about 350,000 people in the metro area, and now well north of 5 million people. So, and I tell people those numbers, and they think I'm either confused or lying.
The concept of putting this group together was pure. There was a lack of combined leadership, and that by bringing people together, the leaders in the community, collectively, there could be change.
A lot has changed in '75, but it still was a significant city in 1975. But I had no vision that it could reach the scope that it's gotten to today.
We saw what needed to be done and we did it. It's that simple.
We're the fastest growing county in America. We're the leader. So there is a lot of pressure on us about how we do things, what our brand is, how do we execute, how do we really see things through. A lot of pressure and a lot of opportunity.
How that all got put together and came together in the desert, and you made a desert an oasis, is kind of amazing. So yes, the answer is there are a lot of other places that are desert cities that haven't become Phoenix. And it's all come together, and I think that may have to do with a lot of people seeing it's a meritocracy and coming here and working hard to make it someplace.